What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Keep It Down podcast. I'm your host, Garrett, joined by my co host, Ty. Ty, say what's good to the people.
What is up, everybody?
Big Schmang, how you doing?
Good guys. Happy to be back. Episode 12.
Yeah, for everyone listening, be sure to follow the pod on Instagram at Keep It Down Pod. We post podcast exclusive content weekly. In our bio, you will be able to find our link tree, which will take you directly to wherever you choose to listen to the pod, whether it be Google Podcasts, Spotify, Zencaster. And be sure to leave a like while you're there. A rating, good 5 stars, a good thumbs up for the boys. So, all that good stuff, as you know. Boys, special little epi here. Last week we had our cousin Gallon on, and this week we're kind of going to stay in the same realm. This is what's going to be called the Hot Seat series. This is episode 1 of 3. There's going to be one episode catered directly to one member of the Keep It Down podcast. And we drew short straws, and Schmag was first. So, today, our quote-unquote guest is none other than the oldest brother, Logan. The only brother with that CIF hardware. He's went from being a JUCO football long snapper to working IT for prestigious medical schools in Orange County to one of the larger solar/renewable resource farm companies in the U.S. He is our brother, Logan. How you doing, baby?
Greetings, everybody. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me on, even though, I'm here all the time, but, yeah, here I am. I knew I was going to be first when we were talking about who was going to go first. I just knew it was going to be me, and that's fine. I can take it. So here I am.
Yeah, man. How you feeling? You feeling nervous? You got a lot of secrets you're trying to keep in the closet, or are you open book?
Open book, baby.
Okay, that's what we
Unless
like
mom,
to hear.
unless mom and dad are listening, then might be in trouble.
Yeah.
The medium closed book.
Yeah, medium to open, I would say.
Yeah, so last week we had Kellen on, like we were talking about earlier, and we kind of just had him go over a little general timeline of his life, and it seemed to flow pretty easily. So I think we're kind of going to switch that same topic. So, Big Schmag, we're going to start off with you, man. Just kind of slowly take us through your life, as much detail as possible, huh?
Oh, yikes.
And then we'll just piece you up when necessary.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, September 14th, 1993.
Great
There I
year.
was. It was a great year. I mean, the best year, some argue, to date. And I mean, the best day of that year, I would say, by far. Um, yeah, so lived here in Tehachapi pretty much my whole life. I think we moved up here from Bakersfield when I was 2. Um, yeah, man, grew up, went to, I was one of those Cummings Valley kids growing up. We lived out in Bear Valley for the first little part of it, which is kind of where I started playing my first sport, which was hockey. Played roller hockey at the Whiting Center. Anyone listening to this, if you played out there, you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, started out playing hockey, and then kind of fast forward through kind of the rest of that stuff. Moved down to into town, into the city of Tehachapi when I was in 5th grade, and then the next year, going into 6th grade, is when I started playing football. Also played a few seasons of baseball, 2 seasons of baseball that right around then, and then my last season of baseball was when I was a freshman in high school.
All right, I
Um,
want to cut in right here because this kind of opener question for both of you. So, you guys said like you said, you guys started school in Cummings Valley, and then you moved to
mm,
town. Of course, it wasn't during middle school, but it's probably during elementary school. But me as a kid who grew up in town my whole life, when you go to JMS, there's all these different kids that come from Cummings Valley, and it's kind of like a standoff at first. It's unfamiliar territory for the boys. Did you guys catch
mhm.
any of that flack from the town kids, or is that just completely faded on my part?
I mean, my last year of elementary school was when we moved into town. So like, I remember riding the bus, like our bus stop was like right at City Park, which was near our house growing up. And so I remember like riding the bus. There was one bus that went from town out to Cummings Valley. And so I only had to do that for, a little bit of like my 5th grade year. And then after that, I started going to the 6th grade center at Jacobson. So, I mean, for me, I didn't have to switch schools right in the middle. And then in 6th grade, everyone from all the or from the elementary schools all started going to Jacobson. So I didn't really have too much of that carryover, but
Yeah, I was kind of split right down the middle. I went to Cummings Valley until like halfway through my second grade year. We lived in Bear Valley and then moved into town, and I finished up the year Cummings Valley. We were riding the bus, like Schmog said. And then I went like third, fourth, fifth, all at Tompkins. So by the time that it was time to go to JMS, I had like my OG Cummings Valley homies meeting me there, plus like my new homies from Tompkins. So um, really, the only people that I didn't know so good were like either homeschooled or the Golden Hills guys. But even some of them, just through sports and stuff. You know what I mean? So not really too much of that going on, Chach.
Because I have a very funny story actually about one of my goodest friends nowadays, Connor Tim.
Hmm.
He moved from Palmdale in I think it was the end of fifth grade, and I
Uh,
hated this kid to his core, man. His dad always had the badass truck, and he was just faster than everyone. So he kind of came and stomped on my peas there at Tompkins. So, but
dang.
grew to be pretty good friends. So, yeah, no, Schmack,
Definitely.
like you were saying, getting into sports. What are we thinking?
So yeah, I started playing football when I was in sixth grade. I think I've kind of talked about it before, but back then it was a lot more competitive to like start playing TYF, Tehachapi Youth Football. For those of you unfamiliar, I think so. Like I was 10 years old at the time, and when I went out to tryouts, and actually Marcos Carrillo was the head coach at the time, which we're still TCU still work with him today, and whenever I see him, we always talk and have a good relationship still. But yeah, that's when I started playing, and then yeah, there was like 73 kids, I think, like 60 to 70 kids that were out there like for um like tryouts and stuff because you still had to have tryouts at that time, and I just remember being so nervous and made it all the way through and made like the team my very first year of football, and it actually ended up being a good season. I ended up starting on both sides of the ball, and I was the kicker at the time, which was kind of crazy. And then we ended up making it all the way to the Super Bowl. We ended up losing to Wasco, I remember, but we still made it. So like that was my introduction to football. So I mean, it was a really really good one. Had a good time with some really good coaches, and some of the guys that played on that team I grew up with, and we ended up winning a championship when I was a senior in high school together. So
Yeah,
it was really special.
yeah, Schmack, I kind of wanted to cut in because you had a star athlete on that sophomore team. Goes by the name of Boo Johnson. And everyone
That's
listening, you
right.
might know him as the professional skateboarder. He's got the cool dogs and all the cool cars and all that stuff. What was your experience playing with Boo?
Boo, like still to this day, is like that dude, the athlete that kid was at 10 years old was absolutely insane. I mean, I had just never really seen anything like that before, and like the way that he played, and I mean, best player on our team by far. Like that dude was just so good and so athletic. He was one of those kids that I swear anything that he like picked up and like wanted to like try, he was just good at. Like I mean, he was good at basketball, he was good at like baseball, he was obviously good at skateboarding, and I mean really anything he touched he was just kind of natural at. And so yeah, there was a lot of plays where we would just toss him the ball and just kind of let him do his own thing, and it was a lot of fun to watch for sure. um, I think I got to play with him for one more season after that, but yeah, I had never really seen anyone like run like that before. It was like I said, it was my first year of football, so like never really seen anything like that. But it was a lot of fun, and like just knowing that obviously it's cool that obviously he's really big and on the skateboard scene now, professional skateboarder, and he has he's sponsored by all these brands that are very very well known, and it's super cool. It's super cool.
Yeah, definitely. If you don't know him, check him out on Instagram. It's Boo Johnson. Yeah. I remember just watching him out there. Just he was on a different level than everyone else, and like you said, it was kind of nice to have that guy on our team for once.
Yeah.
Because a lot of
Uh-huh.
times we were playing against that guy that you could just pitch the ball to him, let him do his thing.
Right.
But I remember even back in the day, you guys had made it onto Hometown Sports, and Greg Kerr hit him with the famous line of "They call him Boo because he's scary good," and then he
That's
just
right.
like has like a 60-yard touchdown run right afterwards, like on the highlight reel, and you're just like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that's our boy."
It was really awesome, and like he was getting love on like TV,
Hmm.
which like I went from not playing any sports to playing sports, and then like being on TV like with with the team in there. That was a really really cool experience.
Yeah, so like when you first started playing football, like your TYF years, like how would you rate yourself as an athlete or like in the team dynamic? Like what would you say?
I mean, I my first year of football, I played left tackle. Not because I was good at pass blocking, to protect the quarterback. I mean, when you're that young, I mean, I was just, I was kind of a I don't want to say a bigger kid because I
A
really
little
wasn't like that.
husky.
I was a husky boy. Like your boy
Mm-hmm.
shopped in the husky section of J.C. Penney's when we went school shopping. So I mean, I was just kind of like big enough to like just get in the way and like hold like people for long enough for Boo to kind of get out and do his thing. Um, and I mean, it was my first year, and so like I didn't really know like what I was doing all that much, but um, yeah, just kind of getting in the way. It was the same thing on defense. I played defensive tackle, so I really just kind of clogged things up and got in the way, kind of thing. But it was still fun. I mean, I got to play both sides of the ball, and like I said, I was the kicker that first season, so I mean that was super cool. So I mean, I don't know how I got appointed to that job, but there I was.
um,
Yeah, definitely.
you poked on Boo a little bit. Do you remember playing against anyone? There was just a ridiculous athlete off the top of your head. I know it's kind of putting you on the spot, but
Like when I was in youth football,
yeah, youth football, like a young little kid.
like nobody really jumps out to mind. Like I know that you guys played against some really like freak athletes like in youth football and going into high school, and I think both of you guys actually played against guys that ended up going on to like the NFL, or Chachi played against Joey Porter Jr. I mean, he's on his way to the NFL, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, nobody. I mean, Stockdale obviously had always kind of had a crazy youth football program back in the day. They were kind of always the team to beat. But like by name, I can't really remember like any big names that I played against. Um, but yeah, Stockdale was like a super good team back in the day. Man, who else? I'd have to go back and look at like who we played, and look at the scores.
Yeah,
But
you guys
that would
played
be
some
fun.
funky teams because you guys had like the roundabouts mixed in there and all those teams, you know.
Yeah, that was like Bakersfield, like Central, and like Arvin, and yeah,
Yeah,
it
when I
was
played youth football, it was just north, east, southwest, just like it is in high
yeah, it was
school.
like all
So
the high schools. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
So, that first year, is that the year you had the most success in youth football, Schmag?
um, I mean, like as far as making it to the Super Bowl, yes, I would say my second year of football when I played for Coach Bob and Coach Domus was like I would say my most like productive year. Like I kind of came into things a little bit and I kind of knew what to expect. And I mean, Coach Bob, we talked about it on an earlier episode of the podcast, but he was really, really influential in like, me playing, like on the line and stuff and just kind of like figuring out what football is about. And like, because I mean, my first year of football was just kind of a marshmallow that got in everyone's way. And then,
Mm-hmm.
but getting older, you have to, there's things about football you have to learn, and you got to be more aggressive, and you got to attack sometimes. And so I'd say that was my most like successful year as far as like me personally and like what I gave to the team. I guess I started again that year too on offense, so that was good. Um, and then my third year of youth football was just absolute garbage of a season. It was just bad. We had like new coaches and a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of weird stuff. We ended up going to like the loser bowl, which we won. Not a big deal. Had a fumble recovery. Um, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't good. And like that was the first time I remember like had like a knee injury, like weird knee injury, like at the beginning of the season and stuff, and like just all sorts of weird kind of stuff happened that year. Um,
Okay. Well,
first
it,
first years were great.
yeah. If there's not much else notable for the youth football days, let's hop into the high school days then, man. What was it like to play freshman ball for Coach Scotty? You got any
Uh,
funny Scotty stories for us?
Yeah, I always forget that you guys never had to play for Coach Scotty,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys missed out on a lot. I will say that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so man, yeah, go up to high school and like before we even went out and started playing, like you're kind of introduced to like how things are going to be when you go to like those meetings at the end of your like eighth grade year, like going into high school. And I remember Coach Scotty coming in and like talking to us and stuff, and I remember like there was some stuff that we did kind of like around town, like as part of the team, but obviously like we're not on the team yet. We had that huge project where we laid all that sod up at Warrior Park and stuff. So that was like my first like interaction with like the high school, which I thought was really really cool. And I know the high school still does stuff like that, just stuff around the community, which was really really awesome. It's something I'm sure complained about then, but now I just think it's such a cool thing that we were able to do something like that. And every time we take the kids to that park, even now, I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool that we're did something a part of the community that we can still like appreciate today.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Coach Scotty, man, like you see, what you see is what you get. He is unapologetically who he is, and he's a great guy, and still recognizes me. Like whenever I see him around town, still recognizes me, which is crazy. I graduated high school 11 years ago, and so that would have been like what 14 years ago I played for that guy, and he still like recognizes me, which is absolutely insane. And then on the coaching staff, Marcos Curiel came back, and he was my first football coach. Ended up coaching on that staff too. Um, and the season started out absolutely horrible. I don't think we won a game until league, and then ended up winning league at the end of the season,
There you
um,
go.
which is good to win that. But yeah, it was rough. Like I played like center going into high school, and um, that's my freshman year is when I learned how to long snap because I played center and they needed someone, and I've talked about it before, but after practice one day, Coach Scotty says, we need someone to long snap. Curry, get over there. And so they had Drew Howell come over, who was the snapper for the varsity team, and dang good at it, went on to play at Oregon and all that stuff like we've talked about. So that's where my position started, was my freshman year, like during the summer, like pretty early on too.
Yeah, definitely. For everyone listening at home, just want to give a little bit of background on playing freshman football for Tehachapi High School because Um, if you are a really good football player in eighth grade, you are most likely going to get pulled up to the JV team, right? So the freshman team, it could be kids that have played their whole lives, but maybe they're just not quite there yet. Mixed in with some kids that don't have never played before, so it's an interesting mix, and definitely when you get all those great athletes pulled up, it's like, okay, well, we got to figure out how to play again. So I could see why you guys maybe got off to a slow start that year, Schmog. Did you feel any of that? Like all your studs were gone, or
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because all like the good players get brought up. Nico went pretty much JV for a game or two, and then went up to varsity, and a couple of our other good players got brought up, and then yeah, in like youth football too, like in Tehachapi, there's a rule where everyone has to play at least like 10 plays, but in high school you don't have that rule. So like I really like that was the first time I was kind of like nervous that I wasn't going to get like any playing time, which it ended up being fine. Like playing. Obviously like ended up like playing center and stuff, which is great. But it was definitely like a kind of a culture shock, and along with just having new people playing and some of that kind of stuff. But and we weren't that good to start the season, which was rough. But
Um, my kind of question I want to interject here is how much of a difference in the pace of the game did you notice from playing varsity youth football to freshman high school football?
um, a little bit. I think like what Ty, like what you were saying, like a lot of the kind of stand out like athletes and stuff all kind of go up to play JV football. So like at freshman, I feel like the jump from like eighth grade football to like freshman year football, I don't feel like it's as big of a jump as even like freshman football to JV football,
Mhm.
or like freshman football to varsity football in high school. Just because a lot of the athletes are playing at the for you guys, I'm sure it was a lot different because you guys went from playing eighth grade football to then playing guys who were sophomores in high school already. So I'm sure that jump was bigger. I think it was good for me though because I was still obviously figuring myself out as like an athlete and like what I was doing. And so it was good for me. There was a reason I didn't get brought up to JV. Um, but yeah, the adjustment process was not as bad as you guys had it. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And just to clarify, I was not trying to diss your athletic skills at all, Schmog, because
Oh
even
no,
for Even for a big guy, you could always move, and you had some of the best hands around, man. Like you're an absolute monster in the PFL, and if you don't know what the PFL is, that's the Pickup Football League, man. You were a top draft choice because you were just big and had hands and could move, my guy.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was good. And I mean, like, I guess another thing that went into it too was as far as like growth spurts and stuff go, like I was a really, really late bloomer. Like I didn't start
Yeah,
growing until my sophomore year of high school. Um, and it's funny because I tell people about it, and I think the roster for my freshman year of football, I want to say it had me listed at like 5'3", like 160. So like I was just short and round, and like I hadn't really like started growing or like getting like into my athletic, self that at that point. So I mean, I mean, it's no wonder the coaches didn't look at me to get brought up to JV and stuff. Like I just, I didn't really know what I was gonna what I was gonna be yet. So
definitely.
um so then yeah, and then JV football obviously was the first time I played for Coach Grimes, and that was a great coaching staff. I had a lot of fun um, playing for that group of people. Um and yeah, and then yeah, my sophomore year um, was when I actually met Ray. So he was on the team, and then my best friend Skyler, who I actually rewind met in sixth grade. He was like one of my first like good friends that came from one of the other schools in town, and then we linked up and played football all the way through um, youth football and high school and stuff. And then met Ray. He was an addition my sophomore year, so got to meet him during weightlifting going into that season. We had a great year. We won league again that year, and I think we only lost like 2 games. Um, so yeah, that was a good season. And then obviously I've talked about it before. Missed my junior year due to not making grades at the end of my sophomore season. And then came back my senior year and had the season that we had. So
Yeah, man. That's I think the topic we all wanted to get to was your senior year and winning CIF and just what a huge
mhm.
accomplishment that was. Like I wanted to open the floor to you though, Shma. You got any stories that you wanted to tell from that year, or specific moments or memories that maybe you had in mind that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so um yeah, I mean it's just kind of funny because I remember like during two a days, like our two a day practices during the summer. I remember walking out to practice, and I think I was talking to, I think it was Ray Schuyler, because we normally walked out to the practice field together, and I want to say there was one other person there, but I just remember like talking about it. It was like right after we had like finalized our like schedule for the season, and we had all kind of knew like who and where we were going to be playing and stuff. And I just remember saying like, if we lose a single game this season, like I'm going to be extremely disappointed. Like just like the
Hmm.
team that we had and like what we had brewing like through spring football and all that stuff. Like there were super super high expectations. And so week one we go to Exeter and it's 7,000 degrees, and like we come out like the first half of that game, and we were just like so flat, and like we just didn't play well at all. And then we go into halftime and Coach Dimon just rips us all a new one, and then it literally like someone like flipped a switch, and then we ended up like smoking them like the second half. But yeah, so like going from like if we lose a single game I'm gonna be mad to like being tied with like a not very good team at halftime or so, like whatever it was. Like I was like, oh no. Like, and that was kind of the intro to the season. Second week we get absolutely thrashed at home by Garces, 35-6 or whatever it was. Um, and then we kind of just went on a tear after that. Yeah, I actually ended up missing a couple of games during that season. I took I mean, I don't really blame the guy. It was kind of a cheap shot, I guess. I don't know. It was on a punt. We were playing Shafter. It was homecoming. And I snapped the ball and I'm running downfield. And like they had like two return guys. They had like one deep and then one like kind of splitting the difference between like the line and like the return guy. And I was just running downfield. And then this guy just decided he needed to, I guess, chop block me, like dove straight at my knees, like right in the middle of the field. And I got like a pretty gnarly like sprain from it. And I ended up having to miss like a couple games after that. But um, came back for like our last league game against Taft, so that was great. Um, yeah, it was a really really good season, like all the way up, and even like into playoffs. Like won our league then, and then had West at home the first round. And we had scrimmaged them earlier on in the season, and they only had like a couple athletes that we were kind of worried about, and one of them got hurt in the first quarter. So it was kind of, just cruising after that. Um, Went up to Sunnyside, and we've kind of talked about that game before. It was up in Fresno with the mud and the fog and all the stuff, and then it's actually the game where the Reedley coaches were visiting to scout some of the Sunnyside players, and then that's a game that I had a really good game that game as far as like my snaps and stuff went for punts and PATs. That game ended up getting me recruited, which was super cool. Um, yeah, and then semifinals went back down to Garces, and
The
um,
revenge game, baby.
the revenge season, dude. And like we were just hoping for that game so bad. Like we were of course like super confident we were gonna like be there. But I just remember like looking like we're looking at the bracket and we're like, yes, like we are gonna get a chance to play Garces like on our way. Like that's all any of us wanted. Because I mean that's was still when we had the Ogilvy Bowl and they just smoked us. And then, they were it was just horrible. And I think we all knew that we were, we could beat them. I don't want to say we had better athletes or anything like that. I just think we really wanted another shot at that team. And yeah,
Yeah, look, I just wanted to hop in real quick because um, if you're not from the area, you don't know about the Tehachapi Garces rivalry. But basically, how we see it from our side is we are the public school kids and they are the rich kids that go to the private school and they get to recruit and they have all the nice equipment. So it's maybe for us like a little bit more than just football. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
So, you guys got absolutely handled at home by them early in the year,
mm-hmm,
but that was kind of before you guys caught stride.
yeah,
And then you guys are playing red hot, and you guys have to go down and play them. And when I say that these guys were loaded, they were absolutely loaded. I think Jalen Sykes was breaking the area rushing record at the time.
mm-hmm,
On the offensive and defensive side of the ball, you have what we called Shamu, and it's just
mm-hmm.
a 6'5", 300-pounder. Athletes all over the field. So, what you guys did to them that night, Schmug, when I say it was really impressive, it was really impressive because just the physicality that you guys brought to them, they did not like that very much, did they?
No, no, not at all. And I mean, like when you say it was personal, it was like personal on like a different level that like I never like experienced like after that or before that. Like I mean, they came up to Tehachapi second game of the season. They beat us really bad, and I just remember like talking to some of the coaches and like after the game, like their fans like there was just trash everywhere. They were knocking over trash cans. Like they left the locker room that they were like in after the game like a complete mess. There's like dirty, gross tape and like shoved in lockers and like like all just sorts of just nasty stuff, like pissing all over the floor and stuff. And like obviously there's people from Tehachapi that are employed by our school district that have to go clean all that stuff up and like um, I mean, really just pretty classless, which I mean, kind of always how I felt about them. But it was like really, really personal. So we went down and like it was like to go play at their field, and it was like I felt before that game different than I had felt before like any other game. And like of course like Tehachapi fans travel really, really well for playoffs, so it's just a packed game, and it's it was great. And then we just go out and just start punching them in the mouth, and it's not literally, figuratively, sometimes literally, but it's like 21-0 at halftime, like, and we're winning, and like we're just like really we just took it to him, and I think Dimon kind of knew that, and he was just he called a great game, and it was just brutal. Like we were just it was a great game. It was a lot of fun. I think it meant a lot for us on the team, like just getting that revenge on that. I mean, that was our only loss during the regular season, and to go out and just completely embarrass that team like we did, it was great through and
Yeah,
through.
definitely. You had kind of mentioned that it was personal for you guys, and you guys ended up getting the dub.
Mm,
Um, but how did you keep that from being your guys' Super Bowl? Because you turn around and you're watching the tape for San Joaquin Memorial, and they got D1 athletes,
mm-hmm.
and this is a team from Fresno. We have the school size of a Division 5 school. We're playing in the Division 2 playoffs. What are you thinking going into that matchup?
I mean, I think a lot of that momentum, like from Garces, just kind of carried over, and like anyone who's played for Coach Dimon listening to this, or you guys know this, like Coach Dimon doesn't sugarcoat like anything when you're getting ready for a game. Like he's not like he's not one of those they're bigger but we have more heart coaches. He's like, these guys are bigger, they're faster, and they're gonna try to beat you for 4 quarters, and they're gonna try to just like beat you up the whole game. And so like we had a lot of momentum coming off of Garces, and San Joaquin Memorial and Garces had played each other earlier in the season. So like we had a lot of like good film and a good sample size of like what that team was going to be about. Um, but I mean, no joke, dude. Like we go out there in Fresno at San Joaquin Memorial for the championship game,
Okay, wait. Before you
and
jump in too much to the San Joaquin game,
okay,
so you're going through the playoffs. At what
uh,
point was it like, oh, we have a shot at winning CIF, to where you would like, we have a damn good shot? Or you always like, damn, our next opponent is going to be better than the last one? Or kind of how did that process go in your psyche going up to through the playoffs?
like when we handled Sunnyside, who was like a super athletic like Fresno team, and we beat them up there, it was like 28-7, and then like it was kind of at that point because like we didn't really play any Fresno teams except for in playoffs, so we didn't really have an idea of like what it's about because Fresno, up north Fresno and like those kind of surrounding areas, like it's just a little bit different as far as like athletes go and like kind of the brand of football that they play. So like once we beat them and we like figured out that hey, we can really like hang with athletes like that, like our confidence went through the roof. And then we saw Garces and they were just a speed bump for us, honestly. Um, and then going to San Joaquin Memorial, like it just like we had all the momentum. We knew the kind of athletes we were going to be playing against, and like we had made it that far. And I mean that was a great team too. They had a lot of great athletes on that team. Another private school just like Garces. But yeah, I mean seeing those dudes, I mean they were, I mean just like Dimon told us, I mean they were a bigger, faster, more physical, you know, team on paper, but we just I don't know, we wanted it more, I guess. I mean,
Yeah, definitely. Really interesting game that unfolded too because you guys ended up winning and you only scored on the first drive of the game and the last drive of the game.
mhm.
Um, that last drive, man, just stuff of legend. Like, couldn't have wrote it any better. You know what I mean? Like, to
Mhm.
win the championship game and it's the final drive, and you guys got to go the length of the field, and all of a sudden Marcus and Phil are making plays, and Levi's completing passes, and you guys are marching down the field. Like, what's going through your head, man?
Dude, it was like like so yeah, we scored on the first drive, and then San Joaquin Memorial scored a touchdown, and they kicked a field goal, which made it 10-7 with only like a few minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then, they get the ball, we hold them on defense, they have the punt, and they punter makes a great kick and like pins us back on like the 3. And like there's not a whole lot of time left in the game, and like we were confident like in our offense and stuff. But I mean, dude, 97 yards like for a CIF championships, I mean, I don't know, kind of crazy. And then just the way that drive went, like, um, like Phil had that crazy run like on the very first play and like picks up like 20 or something like that. Second play, we just run this. I swear to you, we only ran that pass play like a few times during the season. And Levi just throws a bomb like straight into triple coverage, and like somehow Phil catches it. And then we ended up running a few more plays, and then Phil ends up scoring at the end to, um, to put us up. And then we get the interception when, on that last drive. But dude, it was like unbelievable. Like the whole time, dude, my heart was just racing. Like, um, it was nuts. I just can't believe it. And, it was, I think that makes it so much more special. I mean, like having to, have like a drive to win the game in the fourth quarter is nuts.
Yeah, definitely. Was there any sense of relief after? Because, like in the late 2000s, early 2010s, Tashby's just an absolute powerhouse. Like, we're just bringing home rings almost every year. The expectation was definitely the expectation, if you know what I mean. Any
Yeah.
sort of like relief to not be the team that drops the ball?
Yeah. I mean, like we had every reason to like be the team that like lost it again, like, I just remember talking to some of the older guys and stuff. It's like, oh, we were going up to Division 2, and we didn't even win it last year, so it's like, good luck, kind of thing. But I mean, we're going up a division. We don't have a whole lot of seniors. It's a really young team, but it was just like the whole season, like we were just kind of counted against. I mean, we had one loss, and that was to Garces, and we got a 6 seed for the playoffs. So like nobody, like we were just kind of underdogs the whole time, and we just kind of like, I mean, it was right where we needed to be. I guess the personalities and the way our team worked. I mean, it's what everyone needed. So, but yeah, absolutely, dude. Like winning it and like proving like those people wrong, and like especially winning like a Division 2 championship, like it was unreal, man. It was really really special.
Yeah, Schmagman and CIF always just reminds me of that scene from Friday Night Lights when Chavo and Billingsley are sitting in the old car at the little cafe diner thing, and the sheriffs
Mm-hmm.
roll up and they're like, "You gonna win, Stight?" And they
Yeah.
like look at each other, kind of like, "Yes, sir," and
Mm-hmm.
you guys kind of live that. You got the expectations of the whole town, you got the team, you got the talent, you can do it. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, at the end of the day, you just got to go out there and do it. So I mean, but all the ups to Schmag and those boys because they did what Ty and I could not.
Hmm.
Yeah, which I mean that's crazy to me, but yeah. Yeah, it was good. It's definitely something that I was super super like proud to be a part of. Um, and not that I just, that's like my obviously I've had a lot of life happen since then, but it's just really cool to like be able to like hang my hat on that and like just know that like I was on that team and like, it was really really special. And the fact that it was like all the guys that I grew up playing youth football with, and Skylar was on that team and Ray was on that team, Jesse Lynch, who I was in like, Boy Scouts with, and like was, he was my bus buddy in elementary school, and then he was my bus buddy going to driving down to games my senior year. It's like exactly what like you picture high school football being like in movies. Like I got to live that, which was, you know, I'm super super, blessed to have been able to go through that.
I want to dive in on what the clout level of the boys went from. Late in November, you guys win the chip, and then you go back to school in January for your second semester, your senior year. What's the
Mm-hmm.
vibes like on campus? Are you as talked about as I think you were, or was it not quite as you expected it to be?
I mean, like all the teachers and stuff, like anyone who followed the football program was super super excited for us, and it was like because yeah, I mean we played in the championship game. It's like the beginning of December, and then like you have Christmas break, and then like you come back to school in January. So it's like we're just like on this like high, like winning the chip, having break, having Christmas, like spending time with the family,
Wait,
and then
wait,
like
wait. Hold on. You guys were in the damn city Christmas parade with the banners, and then
yeah,
afterwards you went to the BK Theater, and you guys all got keys to the
yeah,
city
okay,
from OG Mayor Grimes. Man, come on, your clout level was going crazy.
Going
yeah. So the
crazy.
week before the San Joaquin Memorial game, we were in the parade, which was super super cool. Like being able to walk in the, for those of you listening from Tehachapi, I mean, you know how big of a deal the Tehachapi Christmas parade is, and so we got to like walk in the Christmas parade, and then yeah, after I totally forgot about that. Went to the BK Theater and we all got like a honorary key to the city. And I want to say like was it Congressman McCarthy at the time was like there to like give us an award, which like he's still like senator today, which is crazy. Um, so yeah, like ended up getting a key to the city and like a recognition paper from it, and like it was super surreal. But yeah, I mean, kind of. I guess you're kind of right though. I mean, you're kind of celebrities for a little bit, like, and then you go back to school and everyone's like talking about it, and like you and your boys every single time you see each other, and you're like you're getting fitted for like CIF rings, and like you're just like you know I don't know. I mean, my chest was definitely pumped up for like 4 months after that for sure.
Okay, one more question about high school football. Did Coach Denman ever show any like real emotion, like of sadness? Obviously, there was get in your face, fucking time to rock and load, Coach Denman. But
Mm-hmm.
did he ever show that kind of empathetic side of himself? I just want to hear it from you guys because I got kind of interesting story on that.
I mean, I guess a little bit like after we won, he kind of like I don't want to say got him like emotional by any means, but he like definitely like he is incredibly present for those moments. He's been through it so many times, but he still remains like present in that moment, and like he's very like still himself, but still like present, and like you can tell he's thankful for like being there and all that stuff. But I mean, not like overly, no, like really just kind of in the time. I mean, he's coached him, and I mean, he's been through it 1,000 times. You know what I mean?
Do you see anything to report, or pretty par for the course?
No, yeah, pretty par for the course. I can't remember any particular instance that stands out in my mind. A lot of the times it's just a real business-like guy. What do you got?
Because our my junior to senior year, he was kind of in limbo if he was going to coach or not for my senior season, and he called basically like my core friend group who I've been playing with since I was a little kid into his office. Anyone who ever went to Tatooine High School, he had like this little crow's nest that overlooked the locker room, and like we
Mm.
walked in, and usually has it like propped open so kids can leave their backpack or whatever. But he closed the door behind us, and I'd never seen such a thing. And I like actually saw him get emotional and like shed a tear, and he talked about both of you
Wow.
guys directly, and the Howell brothers and the Tim and Zach Tim, and just keep going down the list, and the Grimes brothers and all that stuff. And so I actually like saw him give some emotion other than kind of in your face style. So I always thought that was interesting. And then just crazy, man, crazy stuff that he coached literally all three of us, one coach.
Yeah.
Old Demon. Old Demon, man.
All right, Schmack. So you win the chip. You have an amazing rest of your senior year. Now it's time to head off to Reedley Junior College, man.
Oh
What was
man,
it like living on your own for the first time? More so than even just football, man. Like, what was it like leaving the house?
dude, it like culture shock, man. Like I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I mean, like I said, I got recruited after the Sunnyside games. I didn't have really any plans. Like I was probably going to go to BC after I graduated. Um, so the Reedley coaches come and say, "Hey, we want you on the team. We have a spot for you. It's a junior college. I didn't have the grades coming out of high school, so we want you on the team. We need a snapper. We really want you on the team." And I pretty much told them like yes, like on the spot. Like I didn't really like, um, I just remember like having that meeting with those coaches, and they were telling me about it. I'm like, yep, that sounds great to me. Yep, pretty much like where do I sign kind of thing. And they're like, well, you need like go home and like talk it over with your parents. This is Reedley is right up near Fresno, so I mean it is a couple hours away from home. But that was my plan, and so like I had that to look forward to. And then I graduated young. I was 17 when I graduated. So going up to Reedley, like I just being from Tehachapi, we're pretty I mean, it's a pretty like small, safe town, overall, and like going up to a school near Fresno, and there's junior college. There's guys from all over the country, and so like
Mhm.
there's just meeting so many different walks of life, along the road, and some of the I made some really good friends up there. But dude, it was completely different. Like the adjustment from like being a senior in high school to playing at that level, absolutely insane how different the game is at that level. And like just like practice, school, like everything was just completely different.
Mhm.
Um so yeah, I ended up going up there like a few weeks after I graduated actually and did like summer football with them and like just like the strength and conditioning program. Like our strength and conditioning coach, Coach Locke, he had coached for the Seattle Seahawks like 4 or 5 years prior to that. So like he's like the real deal, and he's got us on this insane, program. And, in Reedley during the summer, it's like 105 degrees out. And, you have the Kings River that runs like right behind our practice field. So somehow it's just incredibly humid. And like, you know, it was an adjustment process for sure. And like Reedley is like one of the only junior colleges, junior colleges with dorms. So like I moved in and had a roommate, and then like I'd never lived with anybody besides my parents before. So like you go there and then like you're living with this random dude. He was on the football team. Um, but yeah, it was so different than anything I had gone through before.
Okay, tell me if I'm mistaken, but your second year you lived with someone who was on the football team, right?
Yeah. So yeah. Uh, yeah, that's kind of jumping ahead a little bit, like
Okay,
getting
my
to the
fault.
apartment. But
No,
yes,
I just want to talk about the dorms and living with a man of
yeah,
that stature.
so I show up and they say, welcome to the dorms, yada yada. We have a roommate. He's from Fresno. He's also on the football team. Ryan Lancaster was his name,
Mm-hmm.
and so Ryan lived in like Clovis or something, which is near Reedley. So like, but Ryan wasn't there for like the first weekend that I was there. And so like I don't know who he is or like what he's about or anything like that. And this dude, like I hear the door thing, like the little he like swiped his key at the door to like walk into the dorm room, and this dude is 6'8", like 330 pounds. He's like an offensive tackle, and I had never seen someone that big before. And like at this point, like I'm not a small guy. I'm like 6 foot, like 215 probably. And I like he just made me look so small, and just this giant guy. Also deaf, hearing aids. Like can't make this up. Like full on deaf with hearing aids. Um, and so like so that was like kind of an adjustment a little bit, but I mean he was like a pretty quiet dude. He kind of to himself, and his family lived in Fresno, so he would like leave during the weekends and stuff. But yeah, so like that was it. I mean, super good roommate to have though. And like the dorms at Reedley, you literally walk in the door and it's like split right down. It's like a literally like a 15 by like 10-foot room, and like you walk in, there's two beds, a desk, and like you each have like your own little closet at like the door end of the room. So it's not a very big room, and so like me and this 6'8" huge offensive lineman are sharing a room together, and I just remember he would just run the AC in the room, literally 25.8, dude, and it would be like 60 degrees in there, like freezing. I mean, it worked because it was super super hot during the summer, but yeah, it was such an adjustment, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a huge adjustment leaving the nest for the first time.
Yeah, let's. I want to kind of touch on the physical adjustment. You talked about your strength and conditioning coach. How bad did they whoop your ass that first summer that you went after high school?
Oh, it was it was horrible, man. Like, I mean, I'm talking like, and he just loved to run us too. And like, dude, we would get done. I remember we had like an inter squad scrimmage, like, like just with us. It was like offense versus defense, and then we did like some special team stuff at the end, and we literally ran like 20 100-yard sprints like after this, and it's like noon, like it's super super hot, and like not I mean, and just not only like the conditioning part of it, dude, but like junior college is just a different kind of football, man. And there's like I said, like I was 17 about to turn 18, and then you also have guys that were at other junior colleges or were at division 1 programs, and like we called them like kickbacks back in the day because it didn't work out at whatever program they or were now playing at a junior college. But dude, and it wasn't like like in high school, like on punts and stuff, I would snap the ball and run downfield, nobody would touch me, and I could usually go and make a tackle or at least help with the tackle. But you get in college, dude, and there's a linebacker, 6 foot tall, 250 pounds, can squat a truck basically, and he's just like staring at you, and like like that's gonna be the the guy that you got to work against. But it was an adjustment, man. It was, yeah. I mean, even as a long snapper, dude, and like when you get to college, like if you're a specialist like that, like you're normally not in like the team drills and stuff like that. But um, yeah, dude, I mean, they don't care. Well, like what position you play. Like, I mean, that's everyone at the junior college level is trying to get to a bigger school. So I mean, it's kind of like a Shark Tank, man. Like every little bit of everything counts. Practice, games, it all counts. So.
Yeah, when you said linebackers waiting for you on the punt defender, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
What was that dude's name?
Talking about
Gosh,
Lucas?
what was it? The dude who literally cracked two shut Air XP helmets right down the middle.
Yeah, Lucas Gingold. He was our fullback. And when I went to Reedley, we ran like a pro style offense, like a power eye offense. So like we really utilized a fullback. And Lucas was a second year, like sophomore fullback, and that guy was a tank. The biggest neck on a human that I've ever seen before. Incredibly nice guy. So yeah, he was our fullback, and like that dude, like I just never seen people like hit that hard before. And so yeah, he ends up having a great career at Reedley and then goes on to play at Cal. And I want to say he was coaching for Fresno State for a little bit after that. But yeah, I remember after he had graduated from Reedley and went on to Cal, there was this article that came out about him about how he hit someone at practice and literally cracked like his helmet in half, and then he like did it again like a few like months after that. But yeah, I mean, watching that dude run the ball and play was so much fun. I'm glad that I wasn't the one having to tackle him and block him. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then you kind of touched on the culture a little bit. I remember going to a couple games and scrimmages and stuff, and we'd be waiting outside the locker room for you to get all finished up and showered and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple times we had dudes come out that were pretty heated, saying, I didn't sign up for this shit, this, that, and the other, and like. As I was in high school, everyone watched the Last Chance U documentary on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, and you're like, "Oh, that doesn't
Yeah.
happen." But I was like, "No, dude, I've seen this happen in real life before." So I just want to kind of dive into that and like what you were talking about with some of these kickbacks and the personalities and kind of what makes it harder to mesh with those kids.
Yeah. So I mean, Reedley recruits. I don't know if they still do or if it was just it was Coach Whitted was our head coach, but he recruited really, really heavily from the East Coast. So I mean, the fact that a junior college near Fresno is able to pull in like that kind of talent from the East Coast is really crazy. But they go and recruit these kids, and these guys come out, and it's like they're thinking they're going to California, right? Like they're going to be practicing near a beach and they're going to be, hanging out in the sunshine and it's, 70, 80 degrees all the time. And then they get to Reedley, which Reedley, is a very big like agricultural town, in Central California, and it's not what a lot of them had expected, and for some of them, it's like kind of their last chance to play football. And so, yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's extremely competitive. Like a lot of those guys are coming in and they're trying to get back to a Division 1 school, or they're trying to get their school paid for at like Division 1, like a 2 or Division 3 school. So yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of people on the team. And if you're a receiver and you're not, catching passes and you're not getting thrown to, or you're running back and you're not getting carries, or, you're a linebacker and you're playing on the weak side and you're not seeing enough, like, plays to your side, like it's tensions run high. We had a few guys that, I mean, practice games, took off their crap, threw it down, and like Antonio Browned it and went and got on a plane and went back home. Like that's just how it is, man. It's crazy. And like, yeah, I mean, it was hard to get used to, and like, because I mean, I grew up in, whatever coach says, you listen to him, yes sir, kind of thing. And then like you get to college and it's like it's just different, dude. You got dudes yelling at coaches, you got dudes fighting like on the field and all this crazy stuff. And so that's the thing. I mean, you're at that level. I mean, it's the talent is considerably better, even at like a junior college. It's Junior colleges are extremely competitive in California. It's a big feeder system for bigger schools and the NCAA and stuff. So, um, yeah, I mean, everyone's fighting for a spot and everyone's trying to get to the next level, wherever that may be. So,
Definitely, yeah. It goes from high school, you're hanging out with your buddies and all the camaraderie, and you're just one big happy family. And then you go to the next level, and it's a business now, man. It's a full time
mhm,
job that you're working. Like, everyone is, trying to either get to the next level or get school paid for or
right.
whatever it is. And these are, 18 to 22-year olds, and
Hmm.
they're on a mission, man. So it definitely changes the dynamic quite a bit.
Hmm. Yeah, and it starts happening too, man. Like, I mean, I didn't really have much expectations. Like, I was just kind of along for the ride, like going to school and playing football and all that stuff. And then I mean, even myself, I mean, I remember getting, a couple letters from schools like being interested and stuff. And then I think it became really real at that point that like I could really like make something out of like the situation I was in. And that was like really, really exciting because, a lot of those guys came to Reedley like with, coaches at the next level saying, hey, listen, like you just need to go play there for a season so we can get you back at this level. You need to go fix your grades, do whatever you're going to do. But like I didn't really have any expectations. So like I'm getting letters from like Division 1 programs and I'm like, oh wow, like this is, that was like the first time it really kind of clicked in my brain, like, oh, I could really take advantage of like the situation and like make something of this. So
Yeah, so you kind of, skim through this adjustment period. And then you kind of get into the normal flow of things. You get through spring camp and fall camp, and then you got
Mhm.
school and practice and games and all that stuff. And so, kind of just start trickling into that stuff. What changes from the summer to the school year. Obviously it's a lot more difficult. You got class, study, all that stuff. So
Mhm. Yeah, so we had like a mandatory study hall along with like mandatory meetings in the morning plus weightlifting and practice and all that stuff. So it's as structured as I think they could make it be at like a junior college level. But I mean, you definitely have more responsibility on you to like go and like get your work done and like be in good with your teachers and all that stuff. So yeah, like I mean in the morning I would wake up and then we would have um like team meetings would be first in the morning at like 7 o'clock, and then after team meetings we would go into like our weightlifting period, and then after that I think I started class typically at like 10 in the morning, and then I would most days it would be like only one or two classes, and then I would have practice in the afternoon, and then like study hall like after practice. But it's like a full day. I mean, it's a job. 100%. It goes from like something that you do in high school to like it's like your job, and then you have homework and stuff, and of course like only being a long snapper in college, like I didn't really have like you know game plans and film to watch over. Like my film was pretty much just done in like our specialist period during like films in the morning. But yeah, I mean like nobody's really holding your hand. I mean, like you have a counselor and you have like your study hall and stuff, but it's definitely like up to you to like get stuff done. So I mean, luckily you have kind of easy classes starting out, which is good, like just a bunch of prerequisite classes. But
okay, so I want to stop here real quick. Kind of going to bring this back to relevancy here. Like just this past week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, Tyreek did an interview and said that special teams guys, they work 5 reps during their period and then they go play ping pong. Obviously, it might be different for pro guys, but can you vouch for that? Is it not quite that cut and dry? What's your take on what old Tyreek is saying about the specialists?
um well, I mean, not that Tyreek's ever going to hear this, but Tyreek drops a pass, everything's fine. Long snapper misses a snap and snaps a bad snap, he might get cut from the team. So there's, it's a different position. And I mean, unless you're the one doing it, like we kind of talked about it before, like if you're a long snapper, you're a kicker, like the only time, like, especially being a long snapper, that you get noticed is when it goes completely bad. So it's like, during like individual period at practice, I mean, I'm snapping for like an hour or a little bit more than an hour straight, like just working on different things and, between punts and PATs and stuff. And I mean, like, there's definitely more that goes into it. Like if you've, while you're at practice, and I mean, you just have to do it over and over and over again. I mean, most of it's just muscle memory, like just remembering how to do it. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's not easy, and like just it's a really high stake position too. So it's just something you have to do over and over. It would be like literally like a like a running back or a wide receiver just practicing their first step for an hour straight. It's like it's no different than that. But um yeah, I mean luckily like we had so like I was like the only like full-time long snapper we did have a backup, and then we had like two kickers. We had like a punter and then like a place kicker. So yeah, a lot of my time was spent with them and the special teams coach. And luckily our special teams coach, I mean, took that time, that individual period we had to really work on stuff, but then also like get some like practice film and stuff, and we could kind of go over film and work on that, and if it was a slow period we could go and hit the weight room and stuff, um during that time, or work on some conditioning kind of stuff. So um yeah, it's different than like any other position, but it's just as important, and the work's just as important.
Yeah, man. So to kind of wrap up your football career here, take me through the knee injury, man. Um, Rehab, but you're thinking when it first happens, all that kind of stuff, man.
um yeah, so the third yeah, so I talk like I had this big long college career. Third game of the season, it's like the second quarter. On a punt, I'm running down the field, and then yeah, turf fields, man. I know, I know. OBJ just came out and was talking about like how bad turf fields are, just as far as like ACL and knee injuries and stuff go. But yeah, I had a perfectly just like normal snap running downfield, got blocked, and there was nothing that anybody did wrong. Um, but yeah, ended up tearing my ACL. Like, didn't really know it at the time. Apparently, the it's actually a funny story. So, like, I go down, I get hurt, and I'm rolling back up. I'm laying there perfectly stoic, perfectly composed, not crying, not yelling, not really showing my pain or anything like that, except for I'm rolling around screaming on the ground because it hurt so bad. And then so like the trainer comes over, they get me off the field. I'm fine. They give me some what they said was ibuprofen. No way that was ibuprofen. My knees like really starting to swell up and stuff. And apparently our trainer, like our team trainer, and like it was I think it was like a homecoming game. So like mom was there, and I think dad was there too. Yeah, like mom and dad were there, I think. So anyway, the trainer goes over to mom and basically says like, "Hey, listen, like he tore his ACL, kind of thing." So like she knew ahead of time. He didn't tell me because apparently he didn't want me to like start losing it again. So yeah, I ended up tearing my ACL and then like both sides, like the top and bottom of like my meniscus. Um, Ended up having knee surgery like November. Would that be November of 2011? Yeah, like November 2011, got an ACL replacement. Um, yeah, and then I was working really, really hard through rehab. Like my surgery and stuff was all done by the same like sports doctors who do all the physician care for like the Fresno State program. So I had a really, really good group of doctors, and had a really like seamless kind of like surgery, and then all my rehab was done at a smaller physical therapy office in Reedley, which went really, really well. They say the typical time to like, be like fully back from an ACL replacement is like 6 to 9 months, and I think like I was like done with my like therapy and my rehab at like right at 6 months, which was super, super cool. And obviously, I was kind of put me back on track for like being able to play the next season, um, which is what I thought I wanted at the time. But yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was. I don't want to make it sound like it was all sunshine and rainbows because there was definitely some like tough times like right after I got hurt and stuff, and
That's what I
like
was
I'm
gonna
in
say.
this new.
Let me cut you off right there. I just wanted to,
Yeah.
talk about kind of the mental health and your psyche side of things because, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. It's a tough thing, especially
Hmm.
you at a higher level, playing junior college football, you have all these things in front of you, and ACL surgery is kind of like they give you these little goals and you reach them, and then they're like, oh, if you get to this goal, you can get to the next one, and then you do all these
Hmm.
things, and then maybe it doesn't go quite the way you expected it or the time frame, and so I just want to kind of dive in and pick your brain on the mental side of things and kind of what it takes to go through this kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it was really, really rough. I mean, like for a little bit it was kind of just like just trying to like kind of like because it was my first like real like major injury that I had. Like I had like some concussions and some shoulder issues or some sprained knee issues like I talked about before, but this was like my first like major injury. And so, I was able to luckily stay pretty healthy through my football career. But like, so just like dealing with that, but also being in a new place and like, I said I was getting letters and emails from like big time programs before. And when I got hurt, like, that all stopped pretty much shortly after that, and I had a lot of people from the school in my ear saying, listen, like, just keep up with your school and we'll get you back out for next year kind of thing. And, trying to keep your hopes up. But, um, yeah, it was rough, man. I just remember like there were times where I was like freaking, crutching my ass across campus to like get to my math class in the morning where I'm like, what am I like I'm not playing football. Like I'm here to play football. I'm not playing football. Why am I still here? And like looking back, I was like, you're being an idiot because you're there to get an education and play football. You're a student athlete. But I think my mindset was just all kind of wrong at the time. But I mean, it was tough for me, man. Like I was like fresh out of the house and like I said, I just turned 18 years old like a few days before like my knee injury. So like I didn't really have a lot of like life experiences at that moment or like things to like, really work through in that like sense of things. But it was really, really tough, man. And yeah, I kind of just went down this path of like not really going to class and then like kind of getting motivated like yeah, like I need to go back to class, I need to get this handled because like I just kind of was in this like pity party, kind of feel bad for myself thing, especially like right after it happened. And then by the time I got done with all my rehab and all that stuff, it was kind of like too late to like really start to like really get back into it. Like I'd already emailed my teachers like 3 times, like asking what I needed to do to get caught up. And like all my teachers and counselors were really accommodating about like having an injury and not being able to make it to class and like all that kind of stuff. And, like a lot of my, friends at the time were like off like in college or like had a job. So like, Instagram was new. So like they're all living their best life. And I'm like, really wondering like where the hell I'm at in life. So yeah, I think that's around the point I just kind of stopped going to class. So that was a great decision by me at the time. I just kind of stopped going to class. I thought I was like in too much of like a hole to like get back in and like really start to like go like start going to class again and like getting on good terms with my teachers. I feel like I kind of like burned all those bridges by like sending out emails. Hey, listen, like, I feel like I've given you the bad impression about the kind of student I am, and I just really want to get back into class. And like I feel like I just burned all those bridges at that point. And
Mhm.
so I was like, well, I'll just freaking hang out in my dorm room. Like, what could happen? So like I literally just like sat like freaking in my dorm room all day and like hung out like on the laptop, like kind of honestly just like watching life go by, and like I'm just freaking sitting there chilling. And then I I just remember like one day walking in to the like by the like the people who ran the dorms at Reedley, like by the lady's office. I don't remember what her name was, and she's like, "Hey, can we talk for a second?" And I knew like instantly, like I just got this like sinking feeling in my gut. I was like, "This is it." And like mom and dad had no idea at the time. I don't think really anybody did. And so, um, yeah, like I just knew. So she goes in, she's like, "Hey, have you been going to class?" Like, yada yada. Are you enrolled in any classes, kind of thing? Because I didn't enroll for like the next winter classes, and we had already gone into like the winter quarter semester, whatever we were in. So yeah, and they're pretty much like, well, if you're not going to class, like you can't live here, obviously. So ended up freaking going out, packing everything in the was it the Corolla? No, it was the van at the time.
Mhm.
Packing everything up in the van, dude, and like I had to call mom and dad and like kind of tell them like, hey, listen, like I'm coming home, like I haven't been going to class, kind of thing, and like that was that. Ended up coming home, dude. But yeah, life really kind of caught up with me in that moment. It was pretty nuts.
Yeah, dude, that had to been pretty gnarly to have to make that phone call and be like, "Hey, mama, what you doing?
Yeah.
Just, I'm on my way home right now." Like, that'd
Hmm.
have been pretty crazy.
Oh, dude, I was so freaking like nervous and scared and stuff because like there was nothing that like I could say or do to like get out of like what was going on at that point. You know what I mean? Like it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. But I mean, it happened how it happened, and that was that. But
So, did that effectively wrap up your football career, Schmag?
it did at that time. I didn't know that it did. So yeah, so I came home from really that first time, and then going through. I ended up getting a job here in Tehachapi, working like a seasonal job at like a water district, and yeah, like it was a few months before I started working there. I was like, I'm gonna go back to school, and like I want to finish my football, there and all that kind of stuff, and so I made plans with someone who I still talk to this day. His name is Jordan McCarty, and he's actually a coach, a quarterbacks coach up in Canada. And he played on my Reedley teams, and then went on to win like a Canadian national championship for a junior team that they have up there. Um, but yeah, so he ends up calling me, and he's like, "Hey, listen, like there's another guy from Washington, Jordan's from Washington, that's going to move in. We're going to get an apartment. Like we want to know if you want to go in, like you're coming back to school, kind of thing." And so I think that really like kind of motivated me to get back into it. And so like I really started snapping again, started hitting the weight room and stuff, like really getting ready to go like back to Reedley again. And we're gonna live off in an apartment. We're gonna live off campus. It's gonna be great. Um, yeah, and then so I go back to Reedley, like getting ready for like summer football again. I get all my classes, and um, I go to like one day of practice, dude, and like just being out there, and like it literally dawned on me like a slap in the face, and it was just like I just don't feel the same way about this anymore, like about football
Mhm.
in general. Like I think just kind of the roller coaster that I was on, like going into that like next year, like into 2012, like I just didn't feel the same way about it, which was so weird because I never like felt that about football before. But you get to like that level, like a junior college, college level football, and like it weeds out people like myself who like aren't, like aren't all in and that stuff, or like to go on to the next level. I mean, you're the best of the best. So like it just weeds people out, and it weeded me out, and I just felt different about that kind of football and like football in general, like at that point in my life. And also I was young, and like I didn't really honestly know what I wanted out of life and all that kind of stuff. Just
Mhm.
came back from a rehab and knee surgery and all that stuff, and yeah, man, went to one day of like meetings and practice, and like just didn't feel the same way about it anymore, man. Um, so yeah, so there I am living in an apartment, going to school, not playing football, and then apparently I didn't feel like going to class either, so I just like converted like all of my regular classes to like online classes. And then even at that point, like I think I like was maybe taking like one class and then ended up dropping out of that class too. So once again, here I am, like not going to class, not doing anything, just in this place, like digging myself deeper into this hole. And like that was a time that like for me, with that time in my life was like even like more difficult than like the knee surgery was. Like it all kind of like just fed right into each other. But like I had knee surgery. I wasn't playing football anymore. Like all of my friends and stuff are off doing their own thing. You guys are having great football careers, and like life was really, really rough, man. Like I pushed a lot of people away in my life, and like I didn't really have like good relationships with people or like with my parents, because obviously like I'm there, and like I'm just like literally like freaking like just lying about like going to class. And how was class today? Oh, it was good. And I gotta like just brushing it off, dude. And like the guilt and like like it's really like shame, dude. Like the shame
Mhm.
that I just felt from all that. And like mind you, like mom and dad are like paying for like they're helping pay for the apartment. They're paying for like our utilities. So like I'm literally sitting there like not doing anything with my life, playing Call of Duty, like going out on the weekend, getting hammered on the weekends on mom and dad's dime, like and not doing anything like with my life, and burning all my relationships and like burning all my bridges that I had with people, and like really just kind of like just digging myself into like a super deep hole, like not taking care of myself, like freaking staying up literally all night and sleeping all day. Like it was, it was really, really bad, and like just like not putting myself in good situations. And, I won't go into too much, too many details about things
Don't incriminate yourself.
on the podcast, but yeah, like not putting myself in good situations, not surrounding myself with, um, good people at all. I'm kind of lucky though, cause I get to like look back and like, I kind of learned earlier on in life, 18, 19, about like how not to do things and like how to not have productive relationships with people. Um, and a lot about honesty and integrity and like shame and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I'm happy I went through it just because of the learning process, but also like it was just a really like not easy time to be in my shoes back in the day. I mean, a lot of it was self-inflicted, but you know what I mean? Not easy.
Okay, so
Definitely.
you dig yourself into this hole. Your first year after the knee surgery, you chuck the shovel out, and then your
Mhm.
second year, you dig yourself a little deeper and chuck the ladder out. Kind of
Yeah.
what goes into digging those footholds for you to get out of this hole and kind of moving your life in the right direction. Not that you're going the wrong direction, but kind of
Yeah.
pulling yourself out of this.
So no joke, dude. There was a gym in Reedley. It was called Accelerate Fitness. It's like a gym like branch, like in the
Like a
Central
chain.
Valley. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a chain. Yeah. And we used to go there and like play basketball. Like the football team would go there and we play basketball against the against like the school basketball team. Completely donkey them. Not a big deal. But yeah, like we would go play there, and then like one day, dude, like I just started watching um like YouTube videos about like it was when like the gym like really started to be like a popular thing on like YouTube and all that stuff. And like I remember going to like CVS to like go get odds and ends or whatever, like when I lived in Reedley, and like seeing like the supplement section and like being kind of interested in all that stuff, because like I had always like went to the weight room to like get ready for football, but I had never like been on like the weightlifting, going to the gym, like for like personal health kind of like stuff like that. So literally, dude, I sorry, excuse me. I would literally just start going. I just started going to the gym, man. Like I would go and I got a membership, and it was super cheap for students. I think it was like $5 or $10 for like a gym membership, and they had like everything there. It was a great gym. It was a huge gym. They had a huge like big cardio room, and they had like an outside lifting section where you could go and like flip tires and like all that, kind of cool stuff that people see on commercials, and like a great weight room and all that stuff. And I literally just got obsessed with it, man. And I started like going to the gym. I would literally go twice a day, dude. I would go like in the mornings and in the evenings, and I would just go. And it was kind of like it felt like kind of like an escape from like the apartment a little bit. Like it wasn't just like just the apartment was the issue, but it was like just being there and literally like, like locking myself in my room and like feeling sorry for myself and all that stuff. But like it got me away from that for at least like, 4 hours
Hmm.
out of the day. Because I wasn't like going to class or doing anything, so I could literally go for like 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, and like it was good. And I would say like that was like really like the first like step in like, kind of like getting like digging myself out of that. Um, and like I'd gained like a ton of weight, in between like my surgery and going back to school and stuff. So like started like losing weight and stuff. But that was like the first like productive step towards like, making it out of there.
Yeah, definitely how to get that mental health going. That's
Yeah,
probably like the first thing that needs to be resolved before you can really make any progress. You know.
yeah, exactly. And it just helped, man. It like got me away from it, and then like I became really interested in like the supplemental like side of like going to the gym and weightlifting and all that, and protein powders and pre workouts and BCAs and like the nutrition side of things and all that stuff. So like it was something that like I could like kind of be obsessed about that wasn't like Call of Duty and like Bud Light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like yeah, it was just good to like kind of like find that like new like passion at the time, and it really did help. And then like that led into um basically telling mom and dad like, hey, listen, like it's time for me to come home, like I'm not doing this anymore, kind of thing. So yeah, dude, once again freaking packed up all my shit and came on home, man.
Yep.
Okay, so the conversation the first time when you tell mom and dad that you're coming home, and the second time, are they like giving off the same reactions? Or are they like happier that you're coming home and just like hanging it up for good? Like, do they know this was probably the best thing for you, or kind of how do they take it?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to mom about this a couple times. Like it was like such a relief, I think, for everybody, like just knowing that like I was like gonna come home. Because I mean, I think, obviously mom doesn't know the full extent of what that apartment was and that part of my life, but I think she was very, very relieved, and I think I was relieved too. It was literally like just a giant weight that like I had lifted off of everyone's shoulders, which was good. It was night and day from the first conversation. Like the first conversation was like, "What the hell were you thinking? Like, what are you doing?" Like, and the second one, like, it was pretty much just no questions asked. Like, like let us know what you need. Do you need gas money? I think that was like one of the first like questions that like mom and dad asked. Like, hey, do you need gas money? Um, yeah, because I think like for a long time too, it was like really hard because like I was just so like embarrassed about where like the situation I had put myself in, and I was like so embarrassed to like come home and like have to own up to that, because before then I really didn't have to freaking own up to anything in my life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was like the first time where I had to like really like you know look in the mirror and like figure it out. But yeah, it was a relief. I was so happy to come home, and not that I didn't make good friends in Reedley, and not that I didn't have good times in Reedley, but like it was time, man. Like I was living in a place that I didn't freaking like at all, just because, basically.
Yeah. So that's kind of how your football career wrapped up.
Yep.
But before we really move on to you being an adult, I've got a couple questions for you about your childhood because you didn't just play football.
Mm.
Um, I wanted to know what's the first thing you think of when you think of hunting trips with Jay and Papa Tony.
I mean, probably, man. I do not remember where this place was. That I remember we went up and Papa Tony's
Anderson
green.
Valley, I think.
It might have been. Yeah, and when we stayed in the camper on the back of the truck, and Papa Tony missed all those shots at the deer. Is that where we're going with
Mm-hmm.
this?
Mm-hmm.
So this is like my first time hunting, like on like a hunting trip, and like I'm with my grandpa, I'm with my dad, And we go up, and it's like I don't really know what to expect. And first of all, like I'm not the kid to take hunting. Like I never shut up. I moved around too much. I was hungry like every 6.5 minutes. Like I'm not the kid to take hunting. I don't know who signed off on that or why anyone thought that was a good idea, but I'm not the kid to take hunting. So it's like I don't remember what morning it was, but we go out there and like we're all set up to hunt, and Papa Tony sees this deer like roll out into this pasture. Like I had never heard like a gun shoot like that before, and Papa Tony, man, I miss him so much. But so anyway, this deer walks out, and he like goes to shoot the deer and like misses, and then like the deer like doesn't move. And so Papa Tony literally shoots like 7 or like 8 shots like at this deer that's like first like walking across this pasture and then starts sprinting because it figures out like what's going on, misses every single shot. And like I'm watching this happen, and you can like see the dirt like flying like at the feet around this deer, and he missed every single shot. And like that was like my introduction to hunting. So I'm like, dang, like this is sweet, dude. Like this is what we're gonna do every single time. Like you just get to just cycle magazines, like and just take shots at these guys. It was so much fun. I just remember like, yeah, and like Papa Tony, he used to hunt like old school. Like he would bring like
As I was gonna say,
spam,
spam and Vienna sausage, man.
dude, and he would just eat it like straight out of the can. Wouldn't even heat it up. Like literally, like opens the top with like a big old knife and like flips open the lid and like starts eating it and like oh, it was, yeah, just I can just remember the smell. And like hunting gear like has a smell to begin with, but like old hunting gear at that time of life like has a smell, and like I can still like smell what the camper smelled like at that time. It was crazy. But yeah, that was like my introduction to hunting back in the day, which was so good.
Definitely. Okay, and I got another one for you here. Um, when you're living in Bear Valley at the log cabin house, tell me about getting your tooth knocked out by the neighbor girl.
Oh, yeah. So we're at the Bear Valley pool, and my very first tooth, it was actually a girl that I went to school with. Her name was Gina Pizzillo, and we ended up being friends like through high school and stuff too. But yeah, my very first tooth got knocked out at the Bear Valley pool, and like I just remember like I was like we were just playing, and like of course like I was this small husky kid, and like I was just getting dunked underwater, and I just remember like trying to like doggy paddle my way up to the surface, and like there was like an elbow or something like waiting for me at the surface. And so yeah, my very first tooth got knocked out at Bear Valley pool, Gina Pizzillo. So
I I wanted to ask you, were you a water sports kind of guy? How were you on the wakeboard?
not at all. Still probably not. I had absolutely zero upper body strength growing up. I mean, like I said, super late bloomer. So like anything, yeah, water sports, man, just were not and are not my thing still. Could never once stand up on a wakeboard or skis. Inner tubing, there's not a single person listening to this podcast right now that's saying to themselves, "Oh, I actually enjoy inner tubing," because the point of inner tubing is literally the person driving the boat is just trying to wreck the person in the inner tube bed. That's it. And I just being like set it's like being set up for failure like that. I don't know how that's fun for people. TCU and I had a pretty good inner tube crash right
We
after I
did.
graduated high school. It was like one of those times where like we're literally like skipping across the top of the water. I don't know if anyone's experienced that listening before, but that is a sensation that I'm never ever want to feel
No,
again.
man, you can't just skim over this story. So we're on the inner tube, and they're swinging us out way wide because like we're two of the older kids out of the like friend group.
Yeah,
So like they're definitely trying to give us the business because we're a little bit older, and
yeah,
so they're swinging us way out wide, and we start getting into some choppy water like outside of the wake,
hmm,
and it's choppy enough that it's like bouncing us up in the air and then back on the water, up in the air, back on the water, and all I see is Schmug like slip off of the inner tube, right? And
yeah,
because like a two-person inner tube, and like so we're both on each side of it, and I see him fall off. And then right as that happens, like the wind catches the part where he was, and I'm just up in the air, like in the seated position, just riding this thing into the dirt, man. And so yeah, like, and then of course I go down in a fiery ball of flames into the water, and
uh huh.
I look back, and you're just so far away from me. Like I must have
We
got
were like,
so much air, you know what I mean, for you to be that far by the time I got in the water.
no, I just remember like getting kicked sideways, hitting the water, and like I'm skipping across the water, and like my literal like like my literal shorts are like being pulled down by like the weight of the water hitting me. So like I finally like, and like I don't know which way's up, which way's down, if I'm in the water, if I'm out of the water. So like I finally stop at some point, fix my shorts because they're like halfway down my butt at this point, fix my shorts, and I turn around and Ty's like 40 yards away from me. And I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like we were fine, we were laughing, we're having a good time, and now we're here. So I think that was the last time I was in an inner tube. Actually, I think I called it quits after that. Hung up the old the old cleats after that. But
Okay, so you're moving on as an adult. What are you kind of getting into next? Where are you working? What are you doing? All that good
oh,
stuff.
um, yeah. So I come home and um, started making some better changes in my life, and then I kind of get a little complacent again, and then I remember mom basically walks in and she just tells me like, "Hey, listen, like, I understand that you're back, and it's good that you're back. We're all happy to have you back, but like, you need to get a job." And so I'm like, okay, no worries. So I'm looking for a job for like 2 days, and I'm not really, really looking for a job. I'm just kind of like, oh, I'll go see. I drive by a few places around town, and then I remember she gets back from Save Mart one day, and she's like, "Hey, I saw a sign that Save Mart's hiring. Like, you need to go put in an application there." So I'm like, okay, sweet. So I literally like that very day, I get dressed, I go to Save Mart, pick up an application, go to turn it back in. Whoever was working at the time says, "Hey, listen, like come back in the morning, come turn in your application. They're doing interviews tomorrow for like a bagger spot." So I go and turn in my application, and then like a couple hours after my interview, I get a call, and your boy's got his first real job at
Hmm.
Save Mart Supermarkets in Tehachapi, and this would be like February of 2013.
Dude, it's so funny
Um,
because people still ask me like about your time at Save Mart. Like you were just a fan favorite working at the Save Mart, man. Because you worked there for a minute, right? It was like 4 or 5 years.
yeah, I worked there for like almost 5 years. I mean, there were things that were really really tough about that job. I mean, I don't know if anyone listening has worked at in any sort of customer service job during the holidays, like in that whole time of the year. But it's a lot, man, and it's a super busy job. But it was a lot of fun. I encourage like everyone, to at least work one customer service job in their life. I just feel like you learn a lot from it. You really learn how to deal with people, whether they're happy or pissed or sad or whatever. Like it's a it's a good like skill to have. Like learning those personable skills with people. And I mean, I really enjoyed it for the most part, man. Like, I mean, I had like a good schedule for the most part, like throughout my time. Like, I was guaranteed at least 2 or 3 days off during the week. Like, I didn't just have to sit at a desk, and like, being at that age, like, um, I got to move around a lot and help people out. And of course, like you guys would always come in the store and make a ruckus. And, Grandma Peggy shopped at the store all the time. And like I got to, help her out when she came in, and ended up doing like a lot of different jobs too, which was fun. I kind of had a lot of experience in a lot of different departments, which was super cool. Ended up starting as like a bagger, went to a cashier, and then went to like a manager after that, and then was like the night crew manager. So I was like nocturnal for like a year and a half, some amount of time like that. But it was a lot of fun, man. I had a really good time working there. I met my now wife Hannah when she started working there, and your classic meet on the bread aisle, fall in love at a grocery store story. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I owe a lot to Save Mart, man. Like it was a great job, and like that time during my life was just like it was a lot of fun. Like I was home, I was like, able to connect with you guys. Like TC, like you were still like in high school, but like during the summer and stuff, like we'd go out to the driving range. Shout out the driving range crew. You know who you are.
Hmm.
We go out to the Styling Springs driving range, dude, with a cooler full of rock stars and a couple cans of chew, and go hit balls all day, and like my relationships were getting better in my life, and it was a good time. Not saying I didn't have my tough times, my trials and tribulations during those times, but it was good. I kind of felt like myself for the first time in a long time after that.
Yeah. One story I wanted to touch on from this period of time. Schmugger mentioned he's back living at home. I'm in high school at the time, and we had this. tradition at our school where every year on homecoming, the cheerleaders would go around and they try to toilet paper certain people's houses, whether they had a crush on them or they're on the football team or whatever. But like, it
Hmm.
was almost a term of endearment if you got toilet papered. But at the same time, like we were the young men of the family, so we were the ones that had to go outside the next morning and clean it all up. So we just kind of got
Right.
sick of it. So this particular homecoming, me and Schmug decided that we're gonna stake it out, man, and we're gonna play some defense
Your
at
classic stakeout.
517 East C Street. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So, anyways, we are absolutely stoked for the night. We go out, we buy all these water balloons, as well as probably like 3 cans of Copenhagen, and we were just so stoked for the night because mom and dad like didn't know that we chewed yet, and so we were like, dude, we're just gonna sit on the side house, we're just gonna pack some hogs, like it's gonna be a great night. And anyways, so the girls all roll up, attempting to TP the house, and Shbag and I come running out of the shadows, and I just start pelting these girls from point blank range because they don't see us coming because we run out of the shadows. So
Yeah.
we're probably like 10, 15 feet away from them by the time that we absolutely just baseball pitch these water balloons into the crowd,
Uh-huh.
and they start screaming, running away, and everything. And then they attempt to like they get in the cars and they're like trying to like slow roll by and throw rolls of toilet paper into the tree as they're rolling by. But
Yeah.
us being the high level athletes that we are,
Hmm.
slow moving targets, man, we're just throwing water balloons
In the
through the
car.
window into the
Yeah.
car. You just hear screaming, and they start peeling off, and then Schmeig, just with the absolute legendary throw, just throws a water balloon. I'm pretty sure this would have been the world record for water balloon toss. Just throws it all the way down the street as their cars are pulling off, and it's just in the air, and we're just listening. And then you just hear it splat on the top of the car, and we're just like, yeah, like so stoked, man. Yeah,
Yeah, I have.
definitely some good memories from that point in time in life.
I don't know how that water balloon stayed alive for that long because like I like threw it hard, and somehow it made it there, man. It was just meant to be, man.
Yeah, the funny story I have about protecting the house, I think it was Battle of the Sexes of Ty's senior year. And so basically, for all those listening, it's just like a pep rally and it's like boys against girls kind of thing. So the same espionage happens. The girls try to TP the guy's house, the guys try to TP the girl's house. So Ty's like, oh, we're going to go on the offensive. This is the last hoorah, whatever. So me and two of my buddies get recruited by Ty. He said, okay, you can sit out there and stake out the house if you can't be seen. And so
Uh,
one of my good buddies, Nate Garrett, you guys all know the Garretts because they have a bunch of kids. So we pretty much all grew up
yeah.
with the Garrett kid of one or another. So
Uh huh.
they were like big into airsoft or something like that. So he brought like all these cargo nets, dude, and we like absolutely went the whole mile. And mom made us like a half gallon of hot chocolate, picked us up like little squeezers pizzas, dude, like and just the whole
Dang,
setup. So we
dude.
finally got in on the mish, boys.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah, I sent the little homies to protect the house while I was gone.
Yep.
Exactly. And then yeah,
Wow.
and they're not just water balloons either. They're like party balloons, but they're filled with water, sitting in ice cold
Yeah.
water, 30-degree Tatooine weather. So you
Yeah.
can imagine it probably wasn't that super great to get hit with them. But no, dude, legendary
Jeez
Battle of the
Louise.
Sexes memories.
Yeah. So yeah, like that was a good like time. I had a lot of fun that time in my life, and then obviously I mentioned it before, but I met Hannah while we were working at Save Mart, and
Yeah. What did you do for the first date?
first date, man, we ended up going and we went and caught a we went up to Mountain Park and caught like a sunrise from like the cliffs, like the big rocks, like up at Mountain Park, like near like where the campsites are, and then we ended up going to the King Cafe for like breakfast one morning. So yeah, that was like our first like date, and then again like right after that we went on like this big morning drive and went and took a hike up at the Mount Whitney portals and all that stuff. Um, yeah, and yeah, like I mean, I was like at a really good point in my life, and then I met Hannah, and she like really just kind of like brought something to my life that was like I just hadn't experienced before, and like I was really enjoying life, and I was really enjoying like our time together, and we went and like you know did stuff and went on hikes, and she was really into like you know shooting guns and hunting and fishing and doing all that stuff, which is all stuff that I was really into. And so it was good. It was a lot of fun. And it, obviously, like I mentioned before, but Mart has, its own little special place in my heart, and if I never would have worked at Mart, never would have came home from Reedley, like, probably never would have met Hannah. And, here I am today with the life that, we're building together. So yeah, ended up meeting Hannah, and then a few months after Hannah and I are together, we find out that we're bringing old Granty into the world. So yeah, I mean, like, and all was happening really quick. Got home from Reedley, worked at Mart for a couple years, met Hannah, and then like we are having like a kid, and so had to grow up pretty dang quick at that point. Um, but yeah, well, Granty, and then yeah, that was like he was born like a year before I stopped working at Mart before we moved. Um, so yeah, so that was crazy. First kid, man. First kid is a wild ride. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely, and especially you know, um, you being on the younger side at the time, man. Like, what was that like? Like, what's going through your head when you realize that you're gonna be a father?
Yeah, I mean, I was 23 when Grant was born, so like what, like 22 at the time when we found out, and like I like working at Mart, like my responsibility was like my job. So like as long as like I went to work and like I did what I was supposed to do at work and like paid the freaking two bills I had at the time, like I was golden, dude. So like going from like not having a ton of like adult responsibility besides like just working, to like raising a human, like it was pretty daunting at first. And like I didn't have all my like priorities set like at that time, and like it was like everyone says, like, are you ready? Like, are you ready to have a kid, kind of thing? And like, you're only as ready as you like think you're gonna be, but then it's like completely different than what you actually think it's gonna be. Um, and Grant too. Grant loved to just stay up all night, and he would literally only sleep like on Hannah or I, like in a recliner. So like Hannah and I like slept on recliners for the first like shoot, it was like the first like 3 months of like Grant being here. Like we just slept on recliners, and like it was a really big adjustment, man. Obviously, like we were super young in our relationship too, so it like wasn't easy to like we're still like figuring each other out really. So it was an interesting time for sure. There was some super tough times, and obviously like with a kid, it just it's a lot of responsibility for young people who in all actuality like are really just getting to figure each other out.
Yeah, no, absolutely, dude. Like, and my funniest memory of Grant when he was a little kid was that he would just screech, like when he was finding his voice. Like he'd
Oh
be like
yeah,
in his little scoot down the hallway, dude, and he'd just be screeching the whole way, just making like pterodactyl noises, and he always made that vulture noise. It was so funny. Like every
he
time
was
he'd
just
come
a
and see you guys,
loud human, dude. I mean, he still is, but he
so
was just
legendary.
so loud, dude. Um, yeah, yeah, crazy times. I mean, but we made it through it. I mean, obviously, you go through, easy times and you go through tough times, and it was a lot of fun. Um, and then yeah, and then after like a few years, and after like I think Grant was like almost a year old when we moved down to Orange County. Um, took a job opportunity down at Stanford University down in Orange County, and figured we'd give the whole Southern California thing a shot. And that was a that was an experience. We lived down there for a couple years, and um, got to work in the logistics department. So we ran like all the labs and stuff, and set up for events, and we did all the like ordering for all the programs and all that stuff. So that was a lot of fun. I got to work with my brother-in-law Jesse, who worked in the IT department, and as well as like the programming side of things. Yeah, Orange County, man, that was a crazy time too. Just moving down there, and like Hannah and I just we kind of just needed a change of scenery kind of thing. I was working night crew at Mart like before we moved, and working on night crew plus being married and having like a almost 1 year old was pretty tough family dynamic, and needed something kind of just a change of scenery at the time, and ended up going down to Orange County. But um, so yeah, did like a few different jobs like there, like working like the job that I worked, like a lot of different kind of things. Like one day it would be like nothing but like setting up for events and bringing out, easy ups and tables and chairs and all that stuff. And then the next day would be like, we're installing shelves. And, another day we had like we had a cadaver lab, like for our physical therapy students who are like learning like muscle and bone structure and stuff with like actual cadavers. Those of you listening don't know what a cadaver is. It's a body. And, like we have a designated teacher that goes in and does like, you know, um, dissecting and all that stuff. So like we'd be like moving cadavers around and like all sorts of crazy stuff. So I got to do a lot of different things, which was a lot of fun. And like obviously living in Orange County, like, we had the Disneyland season passes and we would go do that all the time. And so it was fun. There's a lot of super fun things to go and do down there, but it's you know, definitely some cons for sure.
Yeah, definitely some good times though down the down at the Orange County old apartment, man. Like Chach and I came down a couple different times, and
Hmm.
yeah, and then I mean, you guys found out you guys were having Turner while you guys were
Hmm.
living down there. Kind of bring me to where you're at now, man.
Um, so yeah, so since then, yeah, we had Turner and we lived down there, and then yeah, we just kind of came to the conclusion that Orange County really wasn't the like the place for us, and we kind of wanted to, kind of try to see if we can make a transition back to Tehachapi. And I had just like within like the year prior to that, like, we had Turner, and I had started working like more on the IT side of things, for in my job and stuff, and kind of split time like working, with computers and stuff. And then we found out that Hannah was pregnant with Reed, and then that's really kind of like what kind of put the nail in the Orange County coffin of like wanting to move back. Like we were just growing as a family, and like obviously it's very very expensive to live down there, and we weren't quite where we needed to be financially at that time to like put ourselves where we needed to be. Um, so yeah, so we um, yeah, I ended up going to a job interview for an IT position that's actually back in Tehachapi. Um, but the company was based out of like Costa Mesa down by where we lived. So I ended up going to an interview and it went great. And then that's what brought us back to Tehachapi, working a IT job, which I definitely didn't think that's where I would end up. But yeah, working an IT job for World Wind and Solar at the time. So yeah, that brought us back to. I mean, I took a I took a huge pay cut to make to make that transition. But I definitely feel like it was worth it. Um, but yeah.
Definitely, man. Yeah, so now you're back in Tehachapi. You got 3 kids. I mean,
Hmm.
tell me what's your favorite part about being a dad?
I think like when I remember like when I met Hannah, like I just remember telling her like I don't want any kids. Like I couldn't see myself like being a parent. And like mind you, like I just came off of like the whole thing at Reedley and like like some other personal stuff I had going on in my life at the time. I was like, dude, I could not imagine having to be a parent in that situation. And like, I didn't think I wanted any kids. And, I remember telling Hannah that. And I think just like, I mean, obviously there's like little moments during the day that like just make it so perfect. But like, just like like feeling just so like complete in my life with like them in it. Like, you don't really realize like something's missing until it's like there kind of thing.
Hmm.
But like, being married and having kids, it all just kind of like brings a full circle, man. And I feel like I've just learned so much about like Hannah and I have learned so much like about our relationship and about like ourselves as like people, but also like um yeah, like I mean it like there's like I said, there's like so many moments throughout the day where it's like, you know, um it's so special just to be a dad and like just kind of that responsibility of being a parent. And like it's like exactly what I needed in life. Like I didn't know that I needed it, but like it's what I needed that responsibility. And I couldn't imagine like my life being any different than it is now, like without the boys, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, dude, there like
Um,
becomes a time in your life. Sorry to cut you off there, TC, but you know, you go through life looking for all this guidance from other people, but there comes a moment in your life where you don't need someone to teach you a sermon; you need to live one. And so,
Hmm.
I mean, that's always how I felt about it. There's comes a time where things are going to get uncomfortable, and things aren't going to be ideal, but that's what makes a good time so good. And no, they have a giant family that you love, and your kids are so much fun
Mm.
and all that good stuff. And I've really seen you turn into a whole different person since you became a dad to those little boys, and Hannah, your wife, and all that good stuff. And so I'm just really proud of how far you come, Schmag, honestly.
No, thanks, man. Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of ups and downs, man. And I mean, we've had some really like big like the highs have been really high and the lows have been really lows. Like we've had some pretty traumatic things happen like within our family. Over the past like few years and stuff. That really kind of like it taught us a lot about ourselves and like kind of where we are in life and kind of what's important to you. I mean, especially like with Turner's accident. I don't know if we're going to go into that whole thing, but yeah, man, like yeah, I've definitely seen myself like grow as a person. Like you really just start to figure out like what's important to you in life and like the person you want to be and like having kids, like the legacy that you want to leave like as a parent and as a provider, and as a spouse too.
Yeah, definitely.
um yeah, I mean, like I said, dude, I wouldn't trade it for the world, man. I wouldn't trade those super tough times for anything. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously you know things have happened and it's some of that stuff super super crazy and hard to believe that we had to go through some of that stuff, but um yeah, man, I mean it's all worth it, coming out on the other side of it.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of start wrapping things up a little bit here. Is there anyone you want to shout out for on the way, kind of teaching you some things that you kind of needed to learn or anything like that, or people that
Yeah,
played a
I
key role?
mean, yeah, I mean, like first and foremost, man, like our family is just like is just so awesome. And like you guys as brothers, like has like honestly, like there are times where like the only thing keeping me like afloat in Reedley was like having like you guys as a support system and like being able to like some of those times I swear to you, man, like life would just feel so horrible. And then like I would get a text on like Friday nights that like Ty's team scored a touchdown and they were up like 7-0. And like like I just feel like the relationship that we had like with each other, like really kind of like it just made everything like better, even if it was only for a few seconds. You know what I mean? And like just like our relationships as like brothers and stuff, like I don't know if I could have gotten through some of the like those super tough times without like you guys. And obviously like mom and dad too, like our whole family, like grandma, papa, nana and papa, like everybody, like family is just such an important part of our lives. And I'm so incredibly thankful to have it that way. um but I mean, like no way I am where I am today without like all the help and support that that you guys and mom and dad and everybody have given. So I mean that's like just first on the list. But obviously like Ray and Skylar, I met Ray, or I met Skylar when I was in sixth grade, met Ray when I was a sophomore in high school, and those are still two dudes that I freaking love till the end of the earth. Two of my absolute best friends. They've been there for the good times. They've been there for the bad times. They've been, there, for getting married and having kids, and they've been there for all the tough breakups. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, like, I was just really, really thankful that when I was going through like the tough times that I was going through, like, I had like such a good like support system around me. You know, um, like I said, I don't know how I would have made it out of what I made it through without, at least something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were kind of blessed. I mean, we all have two brothers, so um, just to have that built-in support system and like
Mhm.
confidants and like,
Yeah.
man, we really went through it all. Like, we had awesome times, and then there's times when we would get down and squabble.
Yeah, absolutely.
And So just really lucky, you guys were just my best friends growing up, and so like
Hmm.
even if things weren't going so good, like outside of the household, like I always had my road dogs to come back to, and
Yeah.
just really lucky to have that support system. I think that goes for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got to like go through this really unique blend of like I got to live with each of you separately, but then also on the other hand, I lived apart from both of you for a decent amount of time for each of you, and
Hmm.
there'd be those times when Ty and Schmag were gone, and I lived alone, and I just go to your guys' rooms and just be like, damn, we had it so good, man. And
Yeah.
just like you take all that stuff for granted, like we never really struggled when we were kids. Our parents worked damn hard for what they got. Like we weren't poor off per se, but we never struggled. And so, those hard times and you're just missing your support systems that you've had since you were a little kid and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And I mean, yeah. And I mean, I guess. I mean, unless there's any like questions that you guys had outside of whatever, anything that you guys wanted to bring up, I mean, that's I mean, really it. I mean, of course, there's little, stops and twists and turns along the way. Maybe that stuff will come up, in later podcasts. But I mean, for the most part, man, that's kind of where I've been.
That's old schmog in a nutshell, huh?
Hmm.
well, Ishmael, you weren't as nervous as I thought you'd be, honestly. I thought you'd be a little more nervous, but you crushed it, dude.
Thanks. Yeah, my seat doesn't even feel that hot. It's a little warm, a little toasty. Not bad though.
TC, you got anything else for Schmack here?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one question. Where do you get off?
Mm,
No, I'm just kidding,
oh
man. I think
no,
that about does it for all my questions about schmog, man. Like Chach said, you absolutely killed it, man.
awesome. Well, thanks guys for hosting me here. Thanks for all that. So it was good.
Boys. Okay, so obviously there's a Schmack hot seat, but after what happened today on the whole Twitter timeline, I just don't think we can skip out and not talk about it. So, I just opened my Twitter to find all the info. And the first thing that pops up is old Dan Lanning smoking a big old fat stogie. First thing on my timeline here, boys. So,
Mhm.
um, but we kind of just want to talk about Oregon in general. So first, let's just crack in. They got their bowl game next week. It's the San Diego Credit Union Holiday Bowl against North
Mhm.
Carolina. This past week, Bo's coming back. Everyone that saw, so that's huge news for the program.
Sheesh.
We get
Awesome.
to see a bunch more talent still play. Get some young guys in there. Sewell's still up in the air. Dorless still up in the air. A bunch of dudes like that. So, how are we feeling going into the bowl, boys?
Well, I'm just absolutely over the moon. As soon as I saw that video that Bo was coming back, man, like
Mhm.
it was like okay, like we got a little bit of traction coming, and signing day at the time was just right around the corner. Just really hopeful at the time. I was like, is this really gonna happen, man? Like, are we getting the band back together?
Mhm.
So that would just absolutely sent me to a next level for excitement for next year. For the bowl game in particular, I mean, it kind of is what it is. We didn't end this season the way that we were hoping we would, but still, like Chach said, Bo coming back and all the talent that we're going to see on display for the bowl game, it's still going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun that we're gonna get to play against North Carolina. I mean, it's a team that I don't know how many times we played them, or is this the first meeting between the two schools?
Can't be a
Um,
lot.
yeah. Anyway, I mean, we don't normally play them, so I mean, I think it's one of those fun bowl games where we kind of get to, you know, see kind of where we're at in terms of like out of conference play and all that stuff. So I'm really excited. Obviously, with Bo coming back, there's going to be a whole new energy, and Dan Lanning is obviously super excited to be in the position he's in. New offensive coordinator coming in, all that stuff. So I think it's gonna be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to see what the team morale and kind of what things are looking like next Wednesday.
Yeah, I think this is just a huge opportunity for the team just to spark this thing back alive going into next
Mm-hmm.
season. These past couple of years, we've had some unfortunate breaks, losses in bowl games, or, our coaches leaving. And so you just have this absolute grenaded team that you're rolling up to a bowl game and playing Oklahoma. So that's obviously
Yeah.
not going to go too well too many times. But, yeah, so just a good chance for them to sink their teeth into next year, boys. And speaking of, just kind of want to go into some recruiting stuff. Something we never really dove into before, but
Mm-hmm.
so we're just going to kind of go through it here. So we got two Alabama transfers, which,
Mhm.
I mean, if you're an Oregon fan, have you ever heard those words be spoken before?
Right?
No.
Never. And it's two Alabama players that saw the field also. It's not backup dudes. We got a starting guard from Texas. We have the number one offensive tackle coming from Rhode Island, which is an FCS team, but still he's the number one ranked.
Still counts.
Just Justin Jacobs, a starter at Iowa, a Big Ten school. They like to play math match football. So Moving on. Let me scroll down to the commitments here, boys.
Yeah, I kind of need you guys to guide me through this because, on the timeline today, I'm just seeing 5-star D end, and I'm seeing the top player from Hawaii, and 4 stars and
Mhm.
5 stars and 4 stars and 5 stars. Like, are we just killing it right now, or like, is this what happens every recruiting day or every signing day?
So I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I believe we jumped somewhere in the 40s to the number 6 ranked class today.
Okay.
Mhm.
And this is just the early signing day, so this is huge. Our most highly touted recruit was Kayvon Thibodeau before this, but like you said, okay, and I told the boys in the group chat we're gonna have to finally learn how to say this name. Edge rusher Mateo Uilangalale. Um, he's like the number 2 prospect in the nation, St. John
Okay.
Bosco product. He's a
Let's
big
go.
dude, plays tight end as well.
Mhm.
So we got him as a 5 star. We've got Jurion Dickey from California, big tall receiver, also a 5 star. We flipped Dalen Austin from LSU, another SEC school. And then we flipped Peyton Bowen, a safety, a bigger one at 6'2", 195 pounds from Notre
Mhm.
Dame to Oregon. So those are basically the big hitters, but overall just a really good recruiting class. A lot of offense and defensive linemen, a couple edge rushers, and a punter and a kicker, boys. So oh, sorry, one more. Number 2 rated quarterback coming out of Texas in 2023. He's a 4 star, flipped him from Baylor. So the
It's
big
big.
news really from this recruiting cycle was Dante Moore
Of
flipping
course.
from Oregon to UCLA. He was, I'm pretty sure, the number 1 quarterback in the 2023 class. So
Uh huh.
I mean, you hate to see that, but with Bo coming back, I'm pretty sure he just wants to play now. So I'm really glad we got another quarterback in the building that can sit behind Bo for a year and learn how to carry himself at a high level. So
Yeah, definitely. I hope this is what we've been talking about all year, guys. It's like Dan Lanning finally be able to go out and get his type of guys, right?
Mhm.
Like we all saw what he did at Georgia with the big, tough, physical defense and just the physical team overall. So I think that's kind of what Oregon has lacked in some of the recent years is just the physicality and the moving people around and all that kind of thing. So hoping Dan just brings a little bit more of that SEC style of play to Eugene,
Yeah, I mean, it's already kind of seeming like it. I mean, just based off, the commitments that we've had so far and the transfers that we have. I mean, people definitely seem to, kind of buy into the culture a little bit more. That's kind of that we're shifting to at Oregon, and it's some exciting stuff, man. I'm really, I'm excited to watch the bowl game, but I'm, over the moon about what next season's going to hold for Oregon, especially with the schedule coming out that we've seen. Like, it's going to be a really fun year, I think.
yeah, and freaking Dan Lanning on the timeline. Basically, whenever he like knows that the recruit's about to commit, he just puts out a little duck emoji, and as the day progressed, he's tweet out more and more duck emojis. And so if you
Hmm.
saw old Lanning on the timeline tweeting out duck emoji, something big was about to drop, and it did because I mean 4 5 star commits. I mean in one day, not even a late signing
Huge,
period. So I mean yeah, huge out of the boys.
exciting stuff, man.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to touch on one more thing before we get out of here, guys, and this is the whole Colorado situation
Oh gosh.
with Coach Deion Sanders coming in. Obviously, he made a splash a couple of years ago when he decided to become the head coach for Jackson State, HBCU, kind of unheard of at the time. And then, even more shocking was that he was getting some top talent to follow him there to the HBCU.
Hmm.
Um, Travis Hunter comes to mind in particular. I think he was the number 1 overall recruit from that year.
Yeah.
um, Fast forward a couple of years, and he decides that he is going to go to a Power Five conference, and he's landed at Colorado. Um, First and foremost, guys, what did you guys think of the day one opening speech that he gave? I've heard a couple of different sides to the story, so what was your guys' take on it?
I mean, with the dumpster fire program that Colorado was last year, I mean, I think an abrupt change and kind of his whole message about like, listen, like the culture is going to change here. Like, I got to respect Deion Sanders. I mean, he's a very old school kind of coach, and he expects a lot out of his players. I've heard stories that, in team meetings and stuff, like at Jackson State, like you're not allowed to wear hats, you're not allowed to wear earrings, like you're not allowed to wear like slides, like mandals, like into meetings and stuff. Like he's very like old school in that sense, which I think is good, especially for like younger men like in that like position. So I think it's good. And I think his message of like, hey, listen, like some stuff's going to change here. I think it's a good message, and I think some players are really excited. I mean, you know, maybe not so much the, hey, listen, I'm bringing some guys you need to transfer out kind of thing. Like, I think that's a little steep, but I mean, I know he's trying to change the culture, and he's going to try to do that in whichever way that he can. So I mean, I don't know. That's where he lost me a little bit. I get his message, but I think I don't know. That's just a little steep to tell a 18, 19-year old who could fight for a spot on the team to transfer out like day one, meeting one. You haven't even seen him in pads yet, kind of thing.
Yeah, everyone just like clips that one little part where he's like, "And I'm bringing my luggage with me, and it's Louis," and everyone just clips that, posts it on Twitter. Oh, this guy's a dickhead. This, that, the other. He doesn't respect his players, and I think that's all anyone took from it was that he just is trying to be a hard ass about it. But they were trying to gain what Schmeig said, that he's an old school dude. He
Mm,
wants to put the pads on and let them talk, and not be the flashy, all that stuff kind of guy that you've seen in the past. And so, I mean, yeah, he's bringing a lot of talent with him, but I mean, when this talent isn't able to run around everyone on the field at Jackson State, like
yeah.
Travis Hunter, I'm sure he's one hell of a football player. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, when
Hmm.
the talent level is much higher and you're playing the USC's and the Oregons and the Washington States are even a tough bid at times. It might get a little
Yeah.
different, and you might wish you had some of those, backup players that you told to transfer. So I mean,
Hmm.
we'll see how that kind of shapes up here. So
Yeah, definitely. Are we worried about Colorado going into next year, or too early for that?
I mean, they got to come to Otson off the rip. So that's a tough, tough, tough sledding, whoever you are. So, hey, but we get Colorado and USC at home next year, boys. So
Yeah.
keep an eye
Hey.
out on that.
And I mean, one of the players that Sanders is bringing in is obviously his son, who's a quarterback, Shadur Sanders. So I mean, that's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, obviously there's going to be an adjustment period, but I think it's a lot of eyes are going to be on them. They're going to bring a lot of eyes over to the Pac-12. I mean, it's not bad for the Pac-12. It's good for Oregon, honestly. Um, and the other schools. So I'm excited to see it. I mean, I don't think they're gonna, you know, I don't think they're gonna be setting any records year one. But I mean, I could be wrong. But I mean, that's just my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, I think they went 9-3 or 9-4 their first year at Jackson State, anyways. So I mean,
Yeah,
there's going to be an adjustment period of some sort.
absolutely.
I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. I mean, college football is a chestnut checkers. You gotta recruit. It's a grind. It
Hmm.
is not a marathon or not a sprint for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, everyone. That is effectively gonna do it for episode 12 of the Keep It Down podcast. Also, part one of the hot seat series for Schmag here. So, again,
Hmm.
huge ups to Schmag. Handled it like a champ. Absolutely took the grills when he needed to, and spoke with some confidence. Like to see that out of Schmag. So, yeah, again, follow our Instagram at Keep It Down Pod. You can find our link tree that'll take you to the pod wherever you choose to listen. Like, follow, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Boys, want to give a quick sign out here?
Yeah, guys, thanks for listening. This is fun. A little change of pace here. The last two episodes. We had K Wolf on, and then we're getting into our hot seat series. So it's been fun, man. Hope you guys are enjoying it.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening, and thank you. I know today was, primarily about kind of me and kind of where I've been and stuff. And yeah, if you've made it this far, I appreciate everyone listening. And yeah, I mean, if anyone out there is listening and, you're going through a hard time and you feel stuck in anything, I mean, just know that like nothing is permanent, and I mean, it's, you can work your way out of it. And like I said, I mean, it, took, you know, starting to go to the gym for me, and, for you, it might be something else. So just know if you're stuck in a hard spot, I mean, just know that, you never know. It can change overnight. So stay up, stay positive, and look forward to hearing from everybody in the in all the comments and stuff. And we'll see you next time.
Again, one more thing for the listeners. I know TC is going out of town for the holidays, so be alert, be patient with us on the schedule. Things might change. We might not get an episode for a week or two or three or something like that. So keep an eye on the Instagram. We always post we're going to miss and all that good stuff. So be patient with us there, and we'll talk to you next time, boys.